right, let's get the show started. Hello, everyone. Thank you all for joining. Welcome to InRhythm Lightning Talks. I'm your host, Parag Katkar. I'm the head of consulting practices at InRhythm. This week, James Putnam, who is a senior DevOps engineer with us, is giving us a talk on Jupyter Notebooks. Jupyter Notebooks is powerful tool for interactively developing and presenting data science project. I'm really looking forward to learn more about it. So without further ado, let's get it started, James.
Awesome. Thank you very much, Parag. All right. Happy Thursday, everybody. Like Parag was saying, my name is James Putman, and today we're going to be talking about Jupyter Notebook. So I actually got my first experience with Jupyter Notebook earlier this year. So I live in Kentucky. There's a little program out here, non-for-profit, called Code Louisville. And I started out as a student just to try and get more skills with, working with data analysis, and ended up becoming a mentor afterwards. So I'm excited to share a little bit of information with you guys. And here we go. So give you a brief overview of our itinerary for this evening. We're going to start off kind of talking about what Jupyter Notebooks is. We'll go over some brief use cases, where we can use this out in the field. I've got a demo lined up, a little project that I worked on for Code Kentucky that I think has a nice display of the different things you can do with Jupyter Notebook. Some alternatives. We'll have some links at the end if you guys want to take a look at anything that I've discussed or just go out and learn on your own. We do have some nice informative links for you, and then we'll end it with any questions that folks have. All right. So what is Jupyter Notebook? So if we take a step back, and we kind of think about, the past of, software development in general, you have like the software developers who are really down into the code, and then you have kind of like, other folks that, use software as well, like data scientists, data analysis, mathematicians. On that side of the fence, the bulk of software engineering isn't really used as much. They're more along the lines of, figuring out problems, visualizing data. And so Jupyter Notebook kind of started as an offshoot of the IPython project, but it goes back a little bit more than that, from all the way back to like Mathematica and Maple. These were programs that were developed to kind of help out, the other fields to incorporate, their practices into the software side of things. And so these programs allowed mathematicians, data scientists to be able to run their equations, visualize it, and bring them into the technological age. But a little bit more about Jupyter Notebook. So the name Jupyter actually originates from the three core programming languages that Jupyter Notebook was designed around: Julia, Python, and R. Now, Julia and R are kind of more related to the data science and mathematics, finances. But Python, it's a very, very broad language. I mean, you can use Python in all kinds of stuff. There's so many different libraries out there. And as IPython project grew, there were a lot of really nice things that they were able to pull from Mathematica, Maple, IPython, and Jupyter Notebook was born from that. It is not strictly just for Julia, Python, or R. It supports hundreds of different languages. And so there's a lot of different kernels out there. So it is language agnostic. So you don't have to learn a new language coming into it, although it does help to know some Python, because, you can do a lot of stuff with it, like I said. And one of its main points is, it allows the creation and sharing of documents and editing in real time. So it's almost kind of like a Google Doc in a way. You guys can collaborate in real time on it. But it also has an added benefit of the cells themselves. You can add markdown. So much like, if you're writing a normal software program, your code should be, self-descriptive. It should explain what goes on. But, when you get to different parts of, the software development life cycle. You're dealing with project owners, you're dealing with stakeholders, you're dealing with folks that don't have a whole lot of technical expertise. So, Jupyter Notebook kind of helps break down those barriers and allowing, information to be presented in a much more readable format than, looking at a block of code would. So, and the main components of the Jupyter Notebook, pretty much two main components, just the kernel and the dashboard. And so because it is web-based, you can access it pretty much anywhere you have internet access. So now that we've talked about what Jupyter Notebook is, we'll talk a little bit about some use cases. So data visualization is a huge selling point of it, I feel. You can visualize complex data. This example we have right now, we've taken an audio file, and they're using a discrete Fourier transform to visualize this as a spectrogram. So you can see down here, this is just like, an audio output, and transformed it into a spectrogram. And so this can be, applied in a lot of different ways. As we'll see later on in my demo, one cool thing is, you can extrapolate a lot of data, just by analyzing, different stuff. So, I mean, the power really comes out, if you are in the data science field or data analytics, machine learning, artificial intelligence, this is where it really starts to shine. It doesn't only support, static visualizations, but also animations. If you are familiar with working with Jupyter Notebooks, or working with Python, data analysis, data science, anything along those lines, they do support different visualization libraries. The next kind of use case is collaboration, and I touched on this briefly one of our previous slides, but this is really helpful as well. I know that you have the Git repositories and stuff, and that also allows for collaboration, version control system, but you have to kind of check your files, and there's just a lot of extra added steps. But one of the cool things about Jupyter Notebooks is you guys can collaborate on it in real time. So you don't have to wait for somebody to check something in. If you see something, you can spot it, call it out to them. And this is kind of one of the core components of the Jupyter Notebook community is collaboration. It is an open source project, so all those open source folks out there that like contributing to open source projects, this is definitely something that that would definitely welcome any additional help and support for sure. Teaching data science skills and readability. I kind of mentioned this a little bit previously as well, but when you're working with a large team, chances are not everybody's going to be as technical as the most technical person. So there might be some folks that need a little bit more plain text, to kind of describe some of the complexities that are going into some of these projects. And so the cells that are listed within the Jupyter Notebooks, right up here, we can see that we have some markdown that has been placed here and kind of describes a little bit of what's going on in this next cell. And this approach goes back to Donald Knuth, who popularized the literate programming approach. And again, this is to kind of help bridge that gap between the super technical folks and the folks that do have a role to play within the software development lifecycle, but unfortunately don't have as much expertise as the developers themselves. All right, now we'll do a quick demo here. So I'm going to launch the Jupyter Notebook server here. And here we go. So this is the project that I had created for Code Kentucky, and this project, basically I created a wave file, an audio file. I recorded Pink Floyd's Money off of my computer and used that to visualize the sound within my Python project. So The Jupyter Notebook is right here, and I won't get into the nitty gritty of this. We don't have a whole lot of time, so I don't want to bore you guys with all the details here. But essentially what we're doing is we're pulling in a WAV file. We're going to pull some data from it. What's the frame rate, the length of it, frame count. And then we're going to just start visualizing it in different charts. So right up here at the top, just click run, go. Let's see, I thought there was a run all. Oh, it's running them. So this is kind of already run before, but as you can see, these are, there we go. So we're generating these graphs here. Each cell that we go down, it's basically executing the code in the block, then presenting us with a graph right below it. And so what I did with this project is I started off with just a sound file, and then I transformed it in different ways. I used a Fourier fast transform. I think it was for this one right here. So kind of like that first slide that we looked at, this is kind of the same thing. I took a sound file, I manipulated it, transformed it. I cleaned up some of the data. I think with this one, I might have took a snippet of it. I think we're viewing it as a frequency spectrogram, full audio file here. And this was a trimmed down section of the WAV file. So I just took a snippet of the main file and then viewing it as a frequency spectrogram graph. And then this is a MEL frequency spectrogram. So unfortunately, I'm not a data scientist. So for the folks that are watching that do have a job within the data analysis field, data science, machine learning, this would probably be a lot more useful for folks like that. I'm in the DevOps arena. I don't use Jupyter Notebooks on a day-to-day basis, but I do realize the value and see how powerful it can be. So I'm actually looking in ways to incorporate some Jupyter Notebook, incorporate more Python into the DevOps world. So yeah, that was just kind of a little demo right there of Jupyter Notebook. Now we'll talk about some alternatives. There are some really nice alternatives out there. Google Colab, Azure Notebooks, Amazon SageMaker. I haven't used Azure Notebooks or SageMaker, but I have used Google Colab. It is very nice. So I would definitely recommend folks to, check out the different options that are there and which ones, best suit your needs. And here we have some links. We got the Jupyter homepage. It's a nice forum for Jupyter Notebooks. A lot of good community help there. A lot of good questions. Really smart people, all part of the Jupyter community. So if you do want to look into it, highly recommend it. Here's just a quick gallery of some interesting Jupyter Notebook projects that I found. And got a nice best practices, because you always got to know your best practices before you get out there in the real world. All right. And that concludes my presentation of Jupyter Notebooks. So I want to thank you all for traveling along with this journey with me, and I'll be happy to take any questions if anybody has any.
I have a question. So can you mention just one real world use case of this whole process? Like, I saw that you're taking input of a sound and manipulating that data, and then data has a different kind of visualization.
Yeah,
it's different from the previous one. So how that's different, and what's the purpose of the data after the manipulation?
so in my example itself, the fast Fourier transform, I don't know a whole lot of the specifics of it, but I do know that you can extrapolate different data from sound and from other things using that transform function. I know that they've used it in the past when, say, for example, if you have if you're a bird watcher, for instance, and you've captured different sounds of different birds, and you're wanting to try and analyze, what birds are in your area based off of sound, then you can kind of take some of these graphs, and kind of compare them based on visualizations, once you've got that data. That's just one example that comes off the top of my head. Like I said, I don't know really the specifics of what all of Fast Fourier transform is used with, but I do know that it is used in various projects and various areas for getting data. Off the top of my head, I mean, that's a good question. That's the best answer that I can come up with.
Yeah, that's fine. Got it.
First of all, thanks, James. Such
Hey,
a
no problem.
informative talks. Really good job. And reminder to all of you, we do these talks every Thursday at 5:15 p.m. Eastern time. And next week, Hamid Mahmood, who is a super awesome, passionate iOS engineer for us, is going to give us a introduction to async await in Swift. And I'm really looking forward to this talk. Make sure you mark your calendar for next week. Thank you all once again for joining. Have a wonderful evening, and I'll see you all next week.